Hello and welcome back to Falmaran Radio. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the 7 lessons that I picked up this past month when I posted over 200 pieces of content. So let's dive in. So there was actually a lot going on. My goal was to reach 500 pieces of content in February, and I reached 250 exactly halfway, exactly 50% across all platforms. Okay. So let me give you the premise of this before I dive into the lessons. The premise is that any piece of content that goes out on any platform counts. So I counted Substack notes, Substack posts, emails, podcasts, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok videos, and I also included, I think I said podcasts. So like I include stories and trial reels. Those are the other two. Instagram stories and trial reels. So another piece of this whole premise is that if I posted something on, let's say, TikTok and it pushes to Instagram and YouTube Shorts, that counts as one piece of content across all of my platforms. So that's 3 total pieces of content. So my goal was to shoot for 3 pieces of content on Instagram, 3 pieces of content on TikTok, and 3 pieces of content on YouTube Shorts per day. So that's 9 pieces of content like immediately out the door. I wanted to try and do a podcast every day. That didn't happen. Podcasts are a little bit more involved. I did do 1 email a week, and I did do, I think, 1 Substack post per week if I were to break it down, even though I like scrunched them all up into the beginning of February. And then we don't have to get into the logistics of it all. Basically, if I put up 1 Instagram reel and it pushed to TikTok and it pushed to YouTube, that's 3 pieces of content. So every time I posted a reel, it counts as 9 because I posted 3 pieces of content a day across 3 different platforms. 3 times 3 is 9. Now, trial reels actually in the middle of the month started to get pushed to other platforms in addition to me posting them on Instagram. If you're part of my audience, I don't think you get to see my trial reels because they're technically for non-followers. However, when I posted my trial reels, they also got pushed to TikTok and YouTube Shorts because of repurpose.io. So again, those pieces of content count. Now, when I posted, I have multiple accounts, right? I have my TikTok, my YouTube, my Instagram, and I have multiple Instagrams. Now, I only posted to my Fallon K. Moran Instagram because I have over 450 followers there. My goal is I just want to have one personal hub, like one personal brand hub that kind of encompasses all of the things that I do and all of the things that I'm interested in. So I am not counting posts that I posted on my other Instagram profiles. It was just the Fallon K. Moran one. So that all being said, the 7 lessons that I got out of this are all pretty important and intentional. So we're going to go right into that right now. The first lesson is that if it's outside of my actual life, then it's more difficult for me to spend time creating. So I'm going to explain this in the simplest way that I possibly can, which is to just use what happened in February. So in February, my goal, like I said, was 500 pieces of content. And also in February, my daughter crunched through one of her fillings in her teeth from her cavities that were filled in October. She started having these focal seizures. Her eyes started rolling into the back of her head and was like, this is weird. So we had to get an EEG. And we also had a couple of, neurological appointments that we had to go to. So, I had to pick her up early from school. There was a whole, 9 yards there. In addition to taking care of Penelope, her oncology appointments, her neurology appointments, her dental appointments, I also was, grocery shopping. We went out to my mom's. We went out to Pennsylvania for a weekend. Um, you know, taking care of the house, doing the laundry, cooking, all of that is typically responsibilities that I have in addition to my job. So for me to be able to publish 250 pieces of content in the month of February while juggling all of those other things, I think that's pretty admirable, even if I didn't reach the 500. However, what I realized was that I was talking a lot about digital products. And actually, the next point here is that I definitely still want to talk about digital products, but maybe I incorporate more of my day to day. So that's point 1 and 2. They kind of work together here. I went into February being like, I want to be about digital products. I want to create a digital products based business. I want to talk about digital products in my content, digital products, right? And I know that digital products can be the most effective way to create lifestyle aligned income because I've already had $3,000 more or less come in from a $2 digital product back in 2021. So I know that it is the most lifestyle aligned way for me. And that's my belief. I carry that belief because to me it's true. And I'm not living a digital product based business right now. I'm living, okay, we have to do the next thing, and I have to make sure that my daughter's okay, and I have to make sure that this is okay, and I have to figure out a way to cover that situation over there. I'm living regulation right now. Like, I'm a master NLP practitioner, and I am literally living that. So, when I went to go create content around digital products, it was actually incredibly difficult for me to do so because I'm not living it on a day to day basis. It is easy for me to create regulation based content because that's what I do on a day to day basis, right? Like when I wake up at 12:47 at night because the cat's downstairs because she needs to go to the bathroom and then I can't fall back to sleep until, 2:02 or 2:08 because that's how long my brain is racking and racing. It's because I sit there and I'm like, okay, we can clear your mind. Just start clearing your mind. And I think about clearing my mind and I clear my mind and I clear my mind until boom, I fall asleep. It takes a while. Yeah. And is that probably the best method? I could probably plug in a hypnosis or a subliminal and make it go a little faster. And I also don't want to move in the middle of the night when the house is all rickety and I risk waking up the kids. So there, do you see what I mean? Like it's easier for me to create from what I'm actually living versus something that I'm not living. And this is, I think, where the whole document over create thing comes in because when you're documenting things that you're living, like, well, today Penelope got an epilepsy diagnosis. Here's how I dealt with it. Or the three things I did today as a mom of two, as a busy mom of two that just received an epilepsy diagnosis. You see what I mean? Like there's a difference there. And the other thing that I want to kind of tie in with this as well is a podcast episode that I listened to this past month had to do a lot with talking about stories in terms of sharing from the scar versus sharing from the wound. Now, the scar has scabbed over, right? The wound is still open. And it's not, when we're talking about sharing from the wound, it's not sharing from a place of like, I am hurt. Like I am bleeding. It's not from a place of like, I am bleeding, help me. It's like, this is what happened. Look at this, right? Or learn from this. Like, take something away from this, right? Like, if I'm bleeding right now, you can avoid the very same fate by doing X, right? Because you just lived the experience. Versus if you let it scar over, then you're coming from this place of like, and I heard somebody else also say this authority hubris. Like you're creating a pedestal by sharing from this scar place because it's like, oh, well, I'm better than that because I've done that so long ago and I've already learned from it versus lived experiences, which is like, I'm openly going through it and I'm okay with letting you see that this happened and this is how you can prevent that or this is how you can solve that, right? Like it's lived experience versus creating a pedestal because when you create a pedestal, then what are you doing? You're creating distance between yourself and the highest version of yourself. And this actually plays with lesson 7. I promise we're getting there. You got lesson 1 and 2 so far. So lesson 1 and 2, it has to do with my actual life so that I document more than create because creating also takes time. Like I think about how I started this challenge. When I started, I was posting from TikTok. So when I posted from TikTok, it was like, okay, I actually had to sit there and think about what I wanted to say and create intentionally. And when I changed halfway through the month to Instagram, it's because Instagram was a lot easier for me strategically for this challenge because I could post a 5-second, oh my God, Penelope is screaming. I could post a 5-second video and put some B-roll text on it and then just call it a day and post it. It was easier to do that than to just like sit there and like record me ranting like I am right now on a podcast episode, right? So that's another piece of like, you also have to consider what's going on in your life. Okay. That's actually got to do with point number 3. It's got to be easy. It's got to be the low lift kind of stuff for me. And that's why I switched halfway through because there was no way that I had the time or the ability to continue creating videos on TikTok when I was like, I got to get 500 pieces of content out. Like, there's just no way that I was going to reach 500 if I was going to do TikTok videos because it just wasn't happening that fast. Whereas I could just, like I said, slap a 5-second B-roll and then put some text on there and then call it a day, post it, publish it. It was out there. And it was out there on not just one platform, but 3 different platforms. The fourth thing was that I learned that I needed to sell more. So I actually talked about this in a past video where my strategy is 70% growth content and 30% conversion content. And the entire month of February, I was 70% growth, 30% conversion. And when I looked through and I went through all of my content that I posted, absolutely 0 reels were conversion reels. Absolutely 0. And the only time I ever talked about anything that I was offering was in my Instagram stories, and I was talking about breakthrough days. And I think I talked about it a total of 7 times out of 28 days in February. That's like 25%, not even. Like, that was not enough if I want to make sales online. If I'm going to make sales online, I got to talk about my stuff. There's actually somebody who I was watching and they were like, "A closed mouth never gets fed." So that's another way to kind of think about sales where like you got to open your mouth, you got to talk about it, you got to tell people like, I have this, make sure you go check it out. I have this, make sure you go check this link. I have this, I want you to go like move and do something. And so a closed mouth never gets fed. If you're not going to talk about your stuff, then you're never going to make a sale. And so I learned, okay, going into March, it's okay for me to sell more. And even though I have, a fair amount of growth content planned for the first couple of weeks of March, I still get to incorporate those conversion pieces of content. It's still important for me to talk about what I have to offer. And so I will be talking about the last dollar breakthrough day that I have available. And once that dollar breakthrough day is gone, then guess what? I'm going to be talking about my $300 breakthrough days that are available because that's what I currently have available right now. Until I feel like I have a more solidified, I'm talking about what's going on in my day-to-day life and I create a digital product from that, then I'm going to be talking about my breakthrough days because that's what I have available. And if you're ready for a breakthrough day, be sure to go check the show notes because the link is going to be down there. The fifth thing that I learned is my attachment to changing my finances is real. I have that all in capital letters. I think it's the biggest thing getting in my way, obviously. And I wonder if I can decondition myself out of it. So another thing that I realized in this whole, because when I journaled this on the 24th, I did not have the realization of like, oh yeah, I go through like regulation stuff on a daily basis. I was just like, okay, I continue to go into this with this mindset of I'm trying to change this, situation for myself. Like I keep going into it with this, I'm looking to change this situation and it's not changing. So how can I take that away as the big, focus and shift my focus to something different? So that's what I mean by that point, because to Tony Robbins' point, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So my attention is constantly on this financial situation that we have. If I can take my attention off of it and I could put my attention someplace else, then I stand to do better because if my attention, let's just say, goes to creating more of an impact for moms who are looking to regulate themselves, then guess what? Then that's where my attention's going, and that other situation's probably going to fix itself. So that was another realization. The detachment thing is a real thing. I'm not a manifestation expert, but what I do know is that it's similar to Amazon, where if you put an order in on Amazon, then Amazon most certainly will deliver your product. And you don't know when it's going to get there. Like Amazon Prime might say it'll get there between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. And it might get there at 4 a.m. It might get there at 3 p.m., but it'll get to your house, right? Manifestation is the same way. You put in an order, it'll get to you, but if you're attached to it and you're squeezing the living shit out of it, then it's probably going to get to your house later than you want it to. So that was the fifth realization that I had. The sixth one is that I enjoy these experiments and I am going to create an experiment for myself once a month until the end of the year. So the month of January, I really was kind of like figuring things out still because we were still kind of in that energy of the snake, like the energy of the year of 2025. And the Lunar New Year was in February. And so the fire horse came in strong in February. And so obviously, like January, I was like, what am I doing? February, I was like, still kind of, what am I doing? But I'm going to move forward because something has to change, something has to happen. I did this challenge and now I'm like, okay, I know that I want to do experiments and I also know that I want to have my content reflect my life. And I also know that I want to have my digital products reflect what I'm going through in my life. Like I recognized all the things that kind of had to like flip together. So I did okay, I'm going to go start the gate strong, right? I thought that by creating this 500 piece of content challenge in February, I thought that that was strong. And I actually realized that it was not so strong. However, the idea of having an experiment and then sharing the lessons out of it is strong. So there's going to be another episode about how making the challenge is actually, it has to do with regulation. And I think that it's really important to continue testing and to continue experimenting and gathering data because then you can share that data with other people. And so for the month of March, I don't have a experiment right now. It is technically March 1st and I can create one still. And so I think that's what I'm going to do. So be sure to stay tuned for March's challenge because that is coming. And the last lesson here has to do with the whole thing that I was talking about with the pedestal. So there's two different approaches, right, that we were talking about before. There's the authority, hubris, and then there's lived experience. And the authority place comes from like I've lived it and I'm up here and you're living it right now. So you're down here. So there's that pedestal right in between. And that pedestal is something that when we're considering the concept of growth, like you grow if you're thinking of growing in a direction, right? So like if this person had gone through their transformation, they're up here and you have not yet figured out going through the transformation, you're down here, then now you have to go up to get there, right? And the thing is that's not it. Like that's just not it. When we're thinking of growth, it's how can I become the most truest version of myself? So like let's just say that you're here, right where the podcast mic is. Your growth is an expansion outward. Okay. And that actually came from a podcast that I listened to, Mind Your Business podcast, because growth is not, when we're talking about content and growth at the same time, authority content is like talking down to somebody, right? And when you're talking down to somebody or you're creating content from that I'm talking from up here place, then you're creating the pedestal within the consciousness and the subconsciousness of others. Versus when you're creating from a place of becoming the truest version of you and expansion, then you're creating from a place of, I hate to use the word authenticity because I think that it's just way overused, but you're creating from a place of your truth being spoke. So there's definitely a difference because it's a felt difference. It's a subconscious difference when you're creating the content. And I thought that was really important to note because I realized that even within my challenge. So that was the 7th really important lesson that I got out of posting 250 pieces of content in February. Again, I don't look at this as a loss. I look at this as, whoa, I got so many lessons out of this. Like, wow, I actually can do a lot. And if I can do that much and I'm not making anything off of it, like imagine if I could see a return from it, right? So that's going to be kind of where we start to go. Another thing that I want to just quickly point out, if you're watching on YouTube, I did get my what is this? Neon light? Yeah. I got my neon light up in the podcast studio and it's actually not lined up all the way. This one doesn't have the screw in, but it's 3 of the 4 are lined up. So I count it as a win. So one step closer to a little bit more solidified podcast studio. And finally, I'm just going to reiterate that the last breakthrough day is available for $1. it is the last one for $1, and then it's going to go up to $300. So be sure to grab it while it's there. And then once it's gone, the price goes up. Okay. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I cannot wait to talk about all of these other things with you. So I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Thanks. Love you. Bye.